Shy/introverted people of Reddit. What is the furthest you've gone to avoid human interaction? In 7th grade, I would hide in the science lab during lunch and recess time and feed and play with the school pets. I would ask to use the bathroom around 10 minutes into lunch and then come back in the last 2 minutes. They probably just thought I had some real bad bowel issues. They were 2 birds, a bunny, and 2 guinea pigs. I would feed them carrots and talk to them. Nobody knew that I was there for half of the year. When one of my teachers finally walked in on me, I thought I was busted. Luckily, she was one of the nicer ones and made it my official job to play with and feed the animals. Story 2. Hid under a bed while a real estate agent showed a couple around my flat. Couldn't be bothered to go out, but can't stand small talk, so decided to lay low. I had a cup of tea, cushions, a Nokia with Snake on it. I was quite happy under there. They were 25 minutes late. I guess I was under the bed for just over an hour. I feared a sneeze. I was in my early 20s. So when I read the prompt, I, for some reason, didn't imagine anything like what I just read. Because yeah, this is going pretty far to avoid social interaction. Couldn't be bothered to go out, so you went under your bed and hid while a real estate agent showed people around your house. That's definitely a choice. Also, how big is it under your bed to be comfortable down there for an hour? How do you have tea? What? I don't understand. I guess my bed is just really low to the floor. Story 3. I once spent a weekend in a hotel because I just wanted to be alone and chill, reading books and watching TV. The people I lived with at the time couldn't spend more than an hour on their own without some sort of social interaction. The roomie I have now is like-minded and we can go days without talking or even seeing each other. It's great. Story 4. Lived in a loft downtown on the 3rd floor. The amount of times I used the stairs in an effort to not be trapped on an elevator with a stranger is too high to count. One time there was a family moving in. I walked all the way around the building to the opposite side's entrance to get in. Then they were using the elevators, so I took the stairs. Then they were on my floor moving stuff in. I didn't want it to look like I was trying this hard to avoid them, so I said, oh, whoops, wrong floor, and walked up 2 extra floors and waited 10 minutes before going back down to see if they were gone. What should have taken me 5 minutes took me close to 30 to get into my apartment. That's when I realized I might have a problem. Story 5. I'm not as shy and introverted as I used to be, but now I have moods where I don't even want to see a single person until the mood is past. When I was living in dorms in college, I would stand in my closet or bathroom for hours, just so I wouldn't have to see the people talking in my room. I ended up hearing a lot of conversations I shouldn't have heard because nobody ever knew I was there. This one's taking a big risk though. What if someone needs to use the bathroom? Are they just gonna be like, I guess the lock's busted? No, I feel like they're gonna be like, is someone in there? And then OP's in some real trouble. Story 6. I was getting a taxi back home, and I must have mumbled or garbled my destination because it was quite clear he was going to a completely different place. Like, literally as soon as he turned right out of the parking lot instead of left. I literally let the guy drive for 15 minutes in the wrong direction. Eventually, I just blurred out, oh, anywhere here will do, and give him a tenner. And then I just walked aimlessly until I found public transport I recognized and jumped on that. A 15-minute cab drive turned into a nearly 2-hour journey home. For those curious and who live in Manchester, United Kingdoms, I wanted to get a cab from Ashton to Openshaw, and ended up going to Oldham, getting a tram to the city centre and getting a train from there back home. I can't wait to hear the comments about how I butchered those English city names. Just cause I always tend to. It's not my fault. The way Leicester is spelled still breaks my entire brain. Story 7. In order to avoid a mandatory Christmas social for work, I legitimately took myself to the ER just to get the registration wristband, for proof that I went to the hospital, and then left. Wasn't sick or anything, and I didn't even want to see a doctor. I just needed a wristband to prove that I had a reason to not go to the work mixer, so I wouldn't get fired. I hated my coworkers. Edit. The Christmas party was mandatory because I was working at a preschool, and the company wanted to up their reputation as a family-oriented organization to the rich frickin' parents who were throwing insane amounts of money at the company to babysit their kids. So they had a preschool Christmas concert, followed by an after party for the parents to get to know the facility, as if we didn't see them every frickin' day at drop-off and pick-up. The party was also meant to be a way for us coworkers to get to know each other better, as if we hadn't worked together Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. every frickin' week. Screw that. Story 8. In high school, I didn't have a car, so I walked home. I used to just fast walk to try to beat the crowd of people, but I just didn't want to deal with it anymore and would stay in the computer lab sometimes and ask my dad to pick me up a few hours later. So once the bell rang to go home, I would just stay in class since I had computers last. The teacher would forget I was in there or not even notice me and then turn the lights off, lock the door, and then leave. Honestly, I didn't mind at all. I got to play video games by myself, and one time, about an hour and a half later, the janitor came in and I guess I scared him. He turned the lights on and literally screamed when he saw me. I don't blame that janitor at all. I would freak out too if I was walking into a room that I thought was empty and it wasn't, just in general. Story 9. I routinely cross streets or turn down streets that are in the wrong direction of where I'm going to avoid awkward interactions with vehicles as a pedestrian. Please don't stop and give me that "it's okay to go" wave when there's still traffic barreling down the opposite side of the street and you're the only vehicle trying to be courteous. I appreciate what you're doing, but it would be easier for everyone if you just kept driving. I'm confused where OP is crossing streets here. Are there not crosswalks where they live or something? Because I know that's possible. But if there are crosswalks, I'm pretty sure everywhere with crosswalks, pedestrians always have the right of way. If people aren't stopping for them on a crosswalk, then that's their own problem. Story 10. Back when I had roommates I didn't know very well, I would spend all day in my room without meals to avoid awkward pleasantries. Then I would get really hungry, but the prospect of explaining why I had just spent all day in my room kept me inside. Then they would text me to ask if I was okay, and I would just say, yep, just keeping busy with some projects. And they would ask if I'd eaten anything since they hadn't seen me. Then I would say, yep, trust me, I'd never go without food. Then I would wake up at midnight and steal my own food from the fridge. Oh, huge props to OP's roommates, though, for being really nice about it. Checking up on a roommate that you don't know that well and making sure that they had food is really sweet, actually. It's a shame OP was a little too anxious to answer them honestly about anything, but it is what it is. Story 11. College. Had to attend an out-of-town conference with my classmates as part of the requirements for a course. My professor had booked a block of rooms at the hotel where the conference was held, and people were going to be put 3 to 4 guys or girls to a room and split the cost. My classmates had a bunch of socializing and bar hopping planned, which sounds like my idea of a living hell. Also, all of them carpooled together in groups. I honestly would have rathered to walk barefoot across a mile of Legos than to be held hostage in a car for 4 hours with people I barely know. A few people asked if I wanted to carpool with them and what room I was in, and I just said, "Oh, thank you so much. I'm actually staying with a friend in town though, and I'm stoked to see her. I'm going to have to take my own car so I can drive to the conference. I'll catch you guys there." Just so I wouldn't come off as a weirdo. But I actually reserved a room at another hotel way across town, attended the bare minimum of the conference, and enjoyed as many coffee shops, art museums, downtown shopping trips, and nature trails as I could. Story 12. I work at a hotel, and one of the worst things about it are the really chatty guests. They'll just stand at my desk and jibber-jabber, completely failing to take any hint. Even saying, "Excuse me, I have a lot of work to do," will typically only get them to say, "Oh, don't let me interrupt," but they'll never walk away. I've learned to call the hotel phone from my cell phone. I answer the phony call and I tell the guest, "Excuse me, this is important." Then I slip into the back and watch them on the video monitors until they leave. Story 13. I'm normally introverted and hate crowds and strangers. If someone unexpected rings my doorbell, I will Spider-Man crawl under windows and throughout my own damn house to try and see who it is without alerting them to the fact that I am home. However, when I was in high school, I would still go to house parties or the club with friends. Even though I hate clubbing with every fiber of my being, peer pressure is a thing. The problem would arise when I became drunk. Suddenly, I would be convinced that I needed to be far away from any and all human interaction, so I would find a place to hide. I never went too far because even in my drunken state, I didn't want my friends to worry. But there are numerous stories about me disappearing while drunk, and for the most part, no one ever could find me unless I let them. I've hidden in playgrounds, in bushes, a forest, my friend's sister's bedroom closet, a tool shed, the backseat of my car, around the side of a house beside a wheelbarrow, under a bed in a laundry room, numerous bathrooms. There were also a few times I was really drunk that I tried to hide in a corner and convince myself that no one could see me. The most embarrassing was probably the drunkest I have ever been. I don't even fully remember it since I blacked out. My friend used to have house parties in his parents' basement, and again I decided I needed to get away. So I went to his upstairs kitchen and hid under their kitchen table. What I was too drunk to realize was that his 3 older brothers were in the attached living room watching a movie at the time. I left eventually for a corner in the basement, but that night dubbed me as the dead girl in the corner, because my friend's brother kept apparently asking him, "Okay, but what should we do with the dead girl in the corner?" Clubs were different, because I didn't want to leave and risk not being able to get back in. So my friends always knew that if I was missing, I was probably holed up in a bathroom stall, and they would have to try to coax me out. As I've gotten older, I've pretty much stopped drinking altogether, and after a few not quite drunk enough club outings, I told my friends I wouldn't do it anymore. I knew once I started bringing a book to the club so I could read it in the bathroom, that it was just not worth my time, money, or discomfort anymore. I gotta say, it was a bit of a relief when OP said dead girl in the corner, because I wasn't sure, but I was just thinking like being found in your friend's sister's bedroom closet has a very different vibe depending on which gender you are, and I guess your gender preference. I'm proud of OP for realizing that drinking is not the healthiest thing for them, though. And I don't mean just like, oh, the bad effects on your liver, whatever. I just mean like for their own mental health, it does not seem like it did wonders. Story 14. My girlfriend's roommate came back one night with a bunch of their friends that I had never met before. I'm not particularly skilled socially, nor do I care to be, but I can get through introducing myself and making a good first impression to 1 or 2 people at once. But 10 people is too many. So my girlfriend goes to talk to all of them and wants me to meet them. So I say I'll be out soon, I just have a bit of a headache. So I think for a while about how I'm gonna get out of this. But then I realize it's been so long that if I go out now, it'll be super awkward. Then I hear someone coming, so I hide in the closet. Now I really can't go out there. So I stay in the closet for a while and then I come out and get into bed and pretend to be sleeping. When my girlfriend comes back in, she wakes me up and asks where I was. So I pull a George Costanza and lie and say that I snuck out and went to the store to get some aspirin and then snuck back in and fell asleep. She wants to know why I didn't go through the front door and say hi to everyone on my way out. So I said that I didn't want to disturb their fun, so I went out the side door. Story 15. My roommate and her mom were doing some Christmas decorating stuff on a Saturday morning and into the afternoon. I really didn't feel like interacting with her at the moment, so I stayed in my room and played on my computer for a bit. I was waiting for them to leave so I could go shower/brush my teeth. Well, it got to be about noon and they still hadn't left. I was a little self-conscious about looking like I had slept in until 12, so I made as little noise as possible to try to act like I wasn't home. I was resolute on not leaving my room until they left, because every passing minute I got more self-conscious. Before long, I needed to pee. No problem, I'll just lay down so gravity doesn't add to the effect. I've held my bladder for a long time before. Then it got to be around 3:30 to 4-ish, and I really had to pee. But the thought of walking out for the first time of the day that late was unappealing to me. I held out for as long as I could and then peed into a beer bottle. I'm a guy. Except one bottle wasn't enough, so I had to pee into 2 beer cans, trying not to cut my dong on the opening. Finally, at like 5:30 they left and I got to go clean myself up and throw away the evidence. Not my finest moment. Story 16. I had a huge crush on this guy senior year of high school, like would uncomfortably stare at him the whole class period crush. One day we added each other on Facebook, swapped numbers, and started texting. I have this weird tick where I'll start to second guess my people skills and will destroy any relationship, friend, dating, etc., so I don't disappoint them. Same thing happens here. Thing is, we still had class together, several months of it. Every time I saw him before he could notice me, I would take a separate hallway, wait for him to enter the class, wait till the bell was about to ring, then walk into class. If he was still in the hallway, walk around another hallway, wait for him to go away. Pretty sure I was late a couple of times just so I didn't have to run into him. If I was walking to a different class and saw him, it meant I was going to be late to my next class, since I was going to be waiting in the hallway until there was no chance of running into him. The anxiety. I wouldn't even look him in the eyes because of how nervous I was, so I thought I lost him for good. Second year of uni, he texts me out of the blue and invites me to go see Godzilla with him. Turns out, he had a crush on me as well. So 4 years later, here we are picking out a crib today for a baby that's gonna be here in 6 more weeks. I cannot believe that OP's completely insane, huge anxiety did not ruin the chances with this guy. That's impressive. OP must have had charm in a lot of other ways too. OP, I hope that anxiety, both social and otherwise, is doing better now. Congratulations on the kid. Story 17. Girl Scouts selling cookies at entrance to Walmart. Note, it's the north entrance and very near where I parked. I'll come back to this. Usually, I just motion in my pockets, smile and say, sorry, maybe next time. If I say anything at all, that is. This time, for reasons past my understanding, I blurt out, I'll grab some on the way out. I do my shopping, use self-checkout because introvert, and get ready to leave. Panic washes over me as I realize they're still at the entrance. I have no cash and I've made what is basically an introvert blood oath to buy cookies. Again, my car is parked just outside the north entrance. I promptly walk across the Walmart to the south entrance and exit there. I then completely encircle the parking lot on the off chance they might see me and sneak into my car like an uncoordinated introvert ninja. Okay, I gotta say, I'm kind of on OP's side here. If I, for whatever reason, I don't know why, said that I would get some on the way out, realized I didn't want any on the way out or couldn't get any on the way out, I would also take a different exit. I would also feel very awkward about that. Maybe I belong somewhere in this thread, but I can't think of any specific stories right now. Story 18. I know most of these are cute or funny in some way, but I'm gonna drop some real stuff. Sorry. I once attended a work conference where I had to travel to a nearby city and stay for an entire week. At the time, I had been battling my depression and anxiety for many years already, so I convinced myself it was going to be fine. I even went the night before the conference began after I had checked into my hotel and walked to the conference center just so I would know exactly where I was going the next day. Well, the next day rolls around and I actually got up, got dressed, talked myself out the door, and got to the conference center. Once I saw the crowds and it really set in how many people there were, I started to lose it. I went and got my check-in materials, but I couldn't fathom actually heading in and being surrounded by people and having to talk with people. Part of it is imposter syndrome, and I know that. Part of it is just the stress of having to pretend to be friendly when I feel miserable. What it boiled down to was I couldn't do it. I left immediately and headed back to my hotel. I spent the entire week solo researching the stuff I was supposed to be learning at the conference, since I didn't have my workload or distractions, and actually learned a ton. Some of the conference materials were even available online, and some of them were broadcast live as well. And that's how I spent my week. I only left to get food from a sandwich place across the street, and one night I had a drink at the hotel bar. I never told anyone at work about what happened while I was there, and no one ever questioned me. When I got back from my trip, I had learned a lot and started implementing things I learned. It was a tech conference, and we made serious headway in my department with some of the ongoing issues we'd been having. I guess it turned out fine, but it was really stressful. The whole time I was there, I just kept thinking about how much of a crappy person I was for making my company waste money on me, and how maybe they actually sign you in digitally or something and I didn't know about that. And then my boss would see I didn't attend all these events I was supposed to. Even with all of that crazy, stressful stuff going on in my head, I still couldn't push myself out the door and go back out there. Nuts, right? Yeah, this is why I'm 35 and single, ladies and gentlemen. A genuine piece of advice for anyone who feels this way at all: it's super okay to go seek therapy. When something like this starts impacting your everyday life or your professional life in a meaningful way, it's definitely time to start looking at other avenues to help this issue. Because it's an issue that can be helped if you need it to be. If you have minor social anxiety and it's just like, oh, you prefer not to go to parties or something like that, that's alright. You don't need therapy for that, it's just part of who you are. But when it starts impacting you this largely, I would recommend at least looking into something. Best of luck out there, everyone. Story 19. I am usually fairly outgoing, but not with what I consider the one-time only strangers. Like, if you're new at my office, I'm not shy or introverted at all. If I'm at the airport alone with people I've never met and will never meet again, I very much do not want to talk to anyone. I have a whole persona I put on when in situations like this, going as far as to change my entire body language to appear timid and shy. People pick up on this most of the time and won't talk to me. Oh, and I suppose this would count as well. I've stopped going to the convenient gas stations because the people behind the counter started getting a little too chummy with me. I'll go 5 minutes out of my way to avoid someone asking me if I ever did try out that restaurant they recommended. Story 20. Several years ago, I brought lunch for a homeless man and his daughter. Dropped it off real quick next to him. Then continued brisk walking my way to avoid having to say, "You're welcome" or anything. I am super uncomfortable with talking to strangers, let alone being thanked by them. So I just wanted to be gone ASAP. Unfortunately, I was actually supposed to go in the opposite direction, so I had to more or less circle around an entire block. My girlfriend was with me at the time and completely baffled at what I was doing, but went along with me despite the lengthy detour. Ran into homeless man and daughter again like 15 minutes later. They moved spots. I actually think it's really sweet that the girlfriend just went along with it. She's like, "This doesn't make any sense to me, but if you're doing it, I'm along for the ride." That's nice, OP. That was a nice little inclusion there, makes me happy. Story 21. My roommate and I are generally antisocial people who get along well, living with our total of 4 cats. But on weekday mornings, we both have an unspoken rule of not treading on each other's getting ready time. Neither of us are morning people, and we unfortunately both have 9-to-5 jobs. Usually, I wake up and wait in bed until I hear the front door open and close, meaning she's left for work. And then I rush around getting ready. One time, I had to pee so frickin' bad, like guaranteed UTI from how stretched my bladder was. Chances are she wasn't even in the bathroom and I would have been fine just going out to the common areas, but I didn't want to break our morning ritual. So I peed in a random mason jar in my room instead. I don't know if I could ever survive in a living environment where I was that afraid of seeing someone who lived with me. Like, that straight up sounds debilitating in a way. I guess the fact that it's just a morning routine in a way makes it better. Like it's an unspoken rule that you just both give each other space on these mornings because it's already hard for you. That's nice. Having to pee in a jar because of it? That's a little rough. Anyway, that's going to be the last story for this video. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and I will see you in the next one.